So, emotionally stunted people don't have a superego. That's because they're stunted before the superego develops. If you believe in a conscience, if you have a conscience, then you believe in the superego. That's not a debate. The conscience is the superego. So, let me just read off the desirable psychology. Chronic self-absorbed, self-preoccupied behavior. They think of themselves first. Limited and complete lack of empathy, lack of guilt or remorse. Disregard for your well-being and safety and those you love. They do what feels best. They do not learn from past mistakes and continue to repeat behaviors that have negative consequences. Lack of self-reflection, inability to take your perspective, stand in your shoes. History of conflict and drama in relationships. History of denying reality due to effective realism. Reality is how it feels, not versus what it is. History of distorting reality, making up new narratives about situations to deal with it. History of impulsive behavior. More feeling than thinking, so they do what feels best. Enmeshment in relationships instead of emotional intimacy. May focus on physical things versus emotional. They do not do emotional work. They do not know how to repair relationships effectively. And spite brain. Gotta stick it to him because he hurted me. The desirable psychology. Now, this creature, this is my biggest beef and why I consider them autistic, and I don't believe it should be referred to as emotionally immature. I believe they're autistic because they don't have a superego. They don't. There's no conscience in here. And I want to explain that. So when you're first developing, you become self-aware. Think like AI and Terminator with the whole, the AI became self-aware. Like, your self-awareness is your ego. Your ego is a part of you, okay? It is a recognition of your existence. People that are ego-based measure everything in life through their own units. Like my brother and I refer to my father, he measures everything in Philip Williams units, which is how much can Philip Williams get out of this? It's not about helping you, it's not about altruism, it's not about doing the right thing, it's not about empathy or sympathy, but what can I get out of this for me? That is how the emotionally stunted mind works. They don't have a conscience. And this was kind of funny because 3 of the guys I was working with at Papa John's, they were idiots. They're really stupid because they're emotionally stunted. Started poking my brain and I started talking about the superego and they just immediately, doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. It's because they don't have one. Because they never went through the proper develop cycle. I would have to be shown evidence that a person can develop a superego later in life. A person can develop a conscience later in life. I'd have to see that as physical evidence or some type of proof. Because I don't see it. Yeah, so what I'm getting at here is these beautiful psychopaths and the whole... It's more psychology. People go, oh, psychology is basically is theoretical, therefore it's subjective. I don't believe psychology is subjective. I think we all basically function in the same metrics, but our brains all process things differently. An example of this is if you imagine a shape, and some people, when they imagine a shape, like it's in color, they can rotate it. You can visualize a cube and rotate it. Some people only see the shadow of a shape. They can only see black and white outlines of it. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean their brain isn't super complex. That's just how they think. And I also remember this guy talking about sometimes you think in voices and some people's brains just kind of communicate in their own form. Okay? So it tells you that the brain is a very complex mechanism and has its own functions for certain things. But I think every standard issue brain, if they go through all the developmental cycles, you have the id and the superego that eventually develop. And once again, the ego is you. It's the selfish part of your brain. And that's what this is. This is 100% ego brain. I only care about me. When I was growing up as the younger brother, I always got the hand-me-downs. And I always had to share my shit with everybody else. And I remember this. If you ever have a kid... Make sure you have at least 2, okay? Or make sure your kid has really good friends, because like my idiot friend Taco, to every kid I've known that doesn't actually have like a real brother or sister, they don't know how to share. And the first time they share, it puts them in physical pain. My idiot friend Taco, I remember this because I came over to his house one time and we were playing with his toys and he wouldn't let me play with them. Yeah, he wouldn't let me touch him. And then I was like, do you know anything about sharing? And he was like, what's that? And then he literally thought I made up the word sharing. That's not a joke. He thought that once you give something to somebody, it's theirs. Okay, that's mine. And he had this big entitlement to his tiny brain, which I'll never understand, but like, there was no, I can use this for now and then give it back. And I had to explain to him what sharing was. And that's not just him, to be fair to that idiot. There were a bunch of other idiots I've met that are only children, and they don't know how to share, and they become scared and confused when they have to share. And even enraged, like, oh, you think I have to share with you? Like, when I was growing up, it was just normal to share shit because I had brothers and sisters. Single kids don't understand that. And I think that's another socio-cultural effect on tiny people's brains, especially somebody only cares about themselves. I always go with the desert island kind of thing. Like, if some creature like this was on an island and it only cared about itself, like, it would just ruin life for everybody on the planet. On that island. It would ruin life for everybody on the island. And it would just ruin it through its own selfishness. And then it would self-immiserate and then tell people the world's miserable because they're miserable. And they're miserable because of the way they think. Okay, you think like a 2-year-old. You shouldn't be doing that. I was learning, like, the thing that fucking... Whatever, dude. There's a lie in the world that we live in a rational society. We don't. If we lived in a rational society, things like this church I keep babbling about wouldn't exist. They're imbeciles, and they believe being an imbecile's great. So you can't deal with that. And I'm starting to realize, yeah, I have a lot of trauma and shit, and I guess me screaming and being pissed off is completely fucking pointless, but whatever. The thing about the super ego or the conscience or whatever you want to call it, because it does exist if you're not emotionally stunted, which implies I have something these losers will never have. I just picture Stu eating my brains and, yeah, I'm gonna get a super ego, yeah, I think like a baboon. Like, great. All the other people's brains you ate, you didn't get a super ego, you didn't eat the ego part of the super ego part of the brain, like, whatever, dude. You can't, you gotta make jokes about this stuff, but you can't derive logic out of it because it makes no sense. Okay. I remember even similar conversation with Ganon where Ganon was like, and once again he accused me of lying because he doesn't have a conscience, he doesn't have a super ego. He doesn't have a mom. I always assume it's a mom in your voice telling, no, you're not allowed to be rude, you know. You put that down, you know, like a angel or some shit telling you not to fucking punch that kid in the face that's behaving like that's an emotionally stunted idiot, and you want to bash his head in with a fucking hammer because you know he has it coming, because you know he's never gonna... Meaningful life means fully developing, in my opinion. And if you fail to fully develop, I guarantee you there's going to be a guy, St. Peter, whoever the fuck, when you're dead. You fail to go through all the developmental cycles. That's because I have the superior psychology. Nope, you got to go through all the developmental cycles. Back to Earth with you. Get out of here. But I had all the things. I had the money. I only cared about myself, and I killed people, and I murdered, and I lied, and I manipulated, and destroyed, and then when I didn't get what I want, I killed some more, and then I got what I wanted. I'm rich. I got a wife. I have kids, and no, those are all external validations, you dumbass. You have to live a meaningful life, you stupid fuck. Back to Earth with you. Oh, no! Not again! This time I'm gonna be born a loser! Like, yes, you are a loser. That is your blood. That's unfortunate. It's the curse of your soul. Is there anything worthy of note here? Not really. This video is probably not gonna be a super complex or real crazy one, I guess. It's just the whole super ego thing annoys me because I meet a lot of people that are like, no. Like, yes. Answer yes. The super ego exists. You just never developed it. Or you don't have it yet. I don't know. It develops after the ego, assuming you're not traumatized as a kid by being raped or assaulted or abused or some shit at a specific age, okay? It develops later, okay, after the ego, because first comes self-awareness, and then you know other people exist after you. Shocker. I know, other people exist in this world. Whoa, what are we gonna do? Yeah, I'll admit, I'll agree with you on one thing, it's pretty horrible. Okay, other people suck, but that's life. Unless you're the Church of the Anal Eating Mummy, then you murder them because you don't like the color of their skin or they said words to you that hurted your feelings and you think like a 2-year-old. So, there's that. I'm mature. Can't imagine the fucking whatever. Yep.